The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
We know how Bill Clinton did at Georgetown undergrad and at Yale Law, and how George W. Bush did at Yale undergrad and at Harvard Business School. But Barack Obama's college and law school transcripts remain a major mystery. So now a conservative blogger, get this, offering $10,000 for Obama's college transcripts, which have never been seen to date. His name is Brooks Bain. He's looking to shed some light on the president's past academic record and says the president was never properly vetted the first time around.
Here we go again, 3 minutes after the hour 6:03, Thursday morning, third morning of May 2012. I'm Peter Boyles. You can go to our website, khow.com, and click on my name. We'll come up right now because we're on the air, and you can jump over to this website. In the meantime, I know he's in London, so time's off a little bit, but the Obama girlfriend composite, this story is breaking as well in the book Dreams from My Father. Ladies and gentlemen, please say good morning and welcome back, actually home. Jack Cashill is with us, and he has done the best of the books, taking that book apart. Jack, good morning, or good afternoon, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I'm in London, so it's afternoon here. But this is a fascinating story, and it sort of reminds me a little bit of James Fry, the guy who wrote the book with A Million Little Pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And Oprah dismembered him into about 1 million little pieces when it was realized that he had fictionalized his own biography.
Well, I got a tip from a friend of mine who was in the media business. He said, Peter, the British reporter who got canned, I have to look at this, at the Rocky Mountain News years ago for using a composite character in a feature story. Guy claimed it was the Rubik of journalism to create composite characters. Should this not get Obama dismissed as well? Answer is obviously not, but talk about this story if you would, Jack.
Yeah, and I'm still sort of parsing this right now, Peter, in part because this happened yesterday. I discovered this just as I was leaving the country. I left yesterday, so I've been just catching up today. The whole thing smells to me. I mean, I've been exchanging emails with a fellow in Nebraska who actually discovered the connection between Diana Houghton, her big estate, 5'7", green eyes, etc., and the mystery girlfriend. Now, and then there's certain things in the mystery girlfriend's emergence. Actually, I mean, in a sense, I like the story. It's to my benefit in that, yes, now the major media is catching on that large parts of his book are fictionalized. That's a step in the right direction. I don't buy what I'm seeing in front of me. I don't think Moranis is part of any scam. I don't mean that at all. But I think these girls have been gotten to, and or women have been gotten to. I don't right now. And I read the excerpts that he sent to the one woman from his letters. I would want to see them in print. I'd want to see them in his handwriting, or I'm not going to believe them. I'm not going to believe they came from the same person who put his name to Breaking the War Mentality that same year, that same person who wrote Why Organized 5 years later. I mean, forget about the language. The person who sent these letters knows how to put commas together, and that was not that. Obama had no idea how to do that back then. So there's a lot to digest, Peter, and it's so bizarre that we have. This is 4 years into his presidency, and we're still trying to figure out who this guy is.
Yeah, with us. Jack Cashill is with us. There are two stories this morning, and one is as damning as the next. The president's autobiography that came out in 95, didn't it, Jack?
Yes.
Dreams from My Father. And since all of us have read it, anyhow, long story short, he talks about a night where he takes his white girlfriend to this play that's by a black playwright.
Right.
And he called it a very angry play, but very funny. And then when it's over, the audience is mostly black, and they go outside, and the woman says, "Why are blacks so angry?" And they have a big fight, and he asks her, nobody asks the Jews about the Holocaust, why they remember the Holocaust. So they have a big fight right in front of the theater.
Right.
And so they get back to the car. She starts crying and said she couldn't be black. She said she would if she could, but she couldn't. She could only be herself, and that wasn't enough. And it was this moment where Barack has these defining thoughts. Well, did it happen?
Well, it certainly didn't happen with this woman. We know that. We also know that throughout the book, these racially charged moments, we know that several other are fictionalized. I can name two right off. I mean, in other words, he led a pretty stress-free, aracial life. So, but he had to create racial incidents to give the book tension, dramatic tension. He created one. This one's been exposed already, where he allegedly, in fact, just about all of them, where he allegedly discovered these pictures of black people trying to bleach themselves in a Life magazine when he was 9 years old. Never happened. He talks about how he was taunted by the fact that this other black girl at his school, he tried to distance himself from her. That never happened. She said, just the opposite.
Yeah.
The notion when he was the only black person working in this office he was working in, that's proven to be false. So virtually every time there's a racial incident, we know that they're fabricated.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I wrote a memoir once. I didn't fabricate anything.
That's right. Who would read ours anyhow, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. I mean, if I became president, they might. They'd be going through it with a fine-tooth comb like we are.
Well,
but there's other stuff in here that troubles me. Oh, here's one right off the top. Morana says that the only friends of his who got to know this woman were his Pakistani friends, and he mentions his roommate Siddiqui. Yeah. Except a couple of years ago, Christopher Anderson, the biographer, went looking for the mystery woman. He talked to Siddiqui, and Siddiqui said, "I never saw anyone like this."
Yeah.
So there are, and then she just happens to remember 30 years after the fact how Obama has this dream about his father that sets him off on this trek to look for the old man. I'm, for whatever reason, this lady stayed quiet for all these years. Now she's talking. Mm-hmm. I'm suspicious.
Of course. I mean, there are two stories this morning, and they're parallel universes. The girlfriend story, and now this fellow has come out, and you go to KHOW.com, click on our page, my name, and you can jump over to this man who's offering now the reward for Obama's records. Now,
right,
and one of the things, if you guys can read him, but he makes this great case. He says, look, he said, the mainstream media have failed to investigate Barack Obama. And he says he's got some recognizable backers. But he said, writes this: you failed, media. You had over 3 years to vet Barack Obama, yet in 3 years in office, a year before campaigning, you have seemed oddly disinterested or purposefully ignorant of Barack Obama's history. You were, however, very interested in George Bush's transcripts. And so, therefore, we're offering an award of $10,000. We'll try and get him on a radio show tomorrow or Monday. And I bet if people send them a couple bucks everybody send them a couple dollars, I bet you could raise that price, huh?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's a good challenge. And his point is exactly right. Yeah. You and I, Peter, shouldn't have to be doing this.
No.
This should have been done 8 years ago, as soon as he became a public figure. Especially since he had an autobiography out. And autobiographies are, it's like, it reminds me with, I think Rush was talking about this the other day, and there's a funny point where Charles Barkley claimed that he was misquoted in his own autobiography because he didn't write his either.
Yeah, right. That's right. He didn't write his either. I mean,
no one expects Charles Barkley to write his own autobiography.
No. I mean, hiring a ghost is nothing new. I was talking about, Jack Kennedy's Profiles in Courage. Most historians believe he didn't write the book.
Well, I mean, Sorensen came out and finally confessed
that he did.
No, he didn't write the book.
Yeah.
He got a Pulitzer Prize for it, and that Pulitzer Prize wanted him to the presidency.
Right.
It is a real strong parallel here with what happened with Obama, because this book is what made him president.
And we know that, for instance, the ambassador, Joseph Kennedy, went out and bought copies of it to push it on the New York Times bestseller list.
Right. So, and then he leaned on the Pulitzer Committee.
Very much so. I mean, the old man was a nasty man.
Right.
But it's been jerry-rigged before, and Profiles in Courage was the best example. And this one, Dreams, and that wasn't that was not an autobiography. That was just a series of vignettes in history,
right?
Of brave men, up to and including the attempt to impeach Andrew Johnson.
Right.
But one of the more mysterious characters now is this woman. So tell the story. By the way, 12 after the hour 6. This is all legit. And in Dreams from My Father, Obama chooses to emphasize these racial issues that separate him from the woman he described as his girlfriend. Who was she?
Well, the woman that we're introduced to, and I imagine that some great part of the story is accurate. Her name is Genevieve Cook, and she's Australian.
Yeah.
And what's intriguing about the book, and which caught my attention when I was reading it, Peter, is that she's the only woman he mentions in the book, and he spends 2 paragraphs on her. He describes her as a mystery woman. We shared the worlds, blah, 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 blah. And 2 paragraphs, and he's out. And then he says that we broke up because we had this argument after the
play.
And she said she could never be part of my world. I couldn't be part of hers, blah, 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 blah. She kept a journal, apparently. And I suspect that she's real. I'm sure she's a real person. And I suspect she probably even had a relationship with Obama. I don't know. But what's happening in this, as she's retelling the story, it is being compacted to fit his narrative perfectly. In fact, the one thing that just jumps out at those of us who've read this closely, because I just got off the email with a friend of mine, he said 30 years after the fact, she remembers the dream that he had that triggered his search for his father. So I can't remember dreams that I had 30 years ago, let alone last week.
Night, yeah, that's right.
Right.
So
no, it's all. It reminds me of last April 27th. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
The big rollout of the birth certificate. Putting this story to bed, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is the interesting thing about an attempt to cover up. Whether I was mentioning the comparisons between Nixon and Obama. Nixon worked, diligently for at least 2.5 years after the break-in to keep it covered up. And you can't. It's impossible. Benjamin Franklin's great line, 3 can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead.
Yeah, right.
Well,
exactly.
they're not. And so this mysterious woman, dreams from my father, and it's already 10,000 emails, was a composite, and now the claim has been made, but his whole life is a composite.
Yeah, I mean, you don't do that in a memoir. That's crazy, especially if you're someone no one's even heard of. It's not like Bill Ayers, I can see him using composites because he doesn't want to send his friends to prison. Yeah. But this isn't the case here.
So
this is. I'll be back. I got to run right now, Peter. But
okay.
Once I'm going to start organizing my thoughts on this, and once I do, let's talk again.
Okay? When are you home, Jack?
I'll be back in a week.
All right, I'll have you back on. If anything changes, we'll track you down. All right, sir. Thank you. Jack Cashill. All right, 303-713-8255. Go to the website, KHOW.com, and you can see this offer. Sheikh, see if we can track this guy down. Or you know what, better yet, maybe we can find Unruh now and go with Unruh, and we can switch it over to Andrew then at 7 o'clock. But the reward is up now for Obama's records. We'll talk about all of it after this, 15 after the hour, 6, 303-713-8255. He's in Arizona, where he's been down there with Sheriff Joe Aparo. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to KHW Radio. Don't know what we'd have done without him for all of these years. He has done, I think, some of the better work on Who's That Man? Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jerry Corsi. Doc, good morning. Welcome back.
Thanks, Peter. Good to be back with you.
2 stories this morning, and then I know you have an update from Arizona. Have you had an opportunity to listen to or look on the internet where this man is now offering reward money for any of the verifiables or certifies of the president?
Yes, I saw that last night, and I think it's a great idea.
I do, too.
I've been looking for Obama's school records. I mean, we can't even get his kindergarten record.
Right.
Can't get any school records for Obama. We want to know if he was registered as a foreign student. I'd like to know who paid for his education and what kind of grades did he get.
Yeah. Remember when he screwed up here in Denver, when he talked about he and Michelle getting those scholarships and the rest of that stuff, and, of course, the mainstream press here in Denver just drove past him, but he's never responded to any of that stuff. Who did pay for, Occidental? Who paid for Columbia? Who paid for this? And he claims he got loans and he got scholarships. Really? Where?
Well, and a group of people in Davenport, Iowa, went to, actually got indicted on criminal offenses because they worked for a company that helped the federal government service the student loan programs, and they dared to look up Obama's student loans. And the next day, here comes knocking on their door the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is, Obama's records are not only sealed, they're sealed, with a criminal seal. So anyone who dares look at them is going to face a criminal charge.
Well, this guy Bain, Brooks Bain, and you can see his website. Go to ours, KHOW.com, and then you can jump over to Bain's website. And I love how he writes this. The media have failed to investigate Obama. He is explaining that 8 individuals, including some he describes as recognizable, are putting up the money. Now, we're going to try and get the guy on a radio show and see if more people want to put up. The more money that's in the water, obviously, you know, the more blood in the water, the more fish it attracts, or more sharks it attracts. But I read this. We are doing this because, and God, this is as though you could say it. We are doing this because we're tired of the media not doing their job. We are tired of the PR propaganda coming out of places like Media Matters. And we are tired of the administration stonewalling over things like Fast and Furious. But he says maybe someone has a copy of these transcripts lying around. They can make some cash. I mean, spread the wealth around. He said, you have failed media. You've tried for over 3 years. You've had over 3 years to vet Barack Obama. Yet in 3 years in office, a year of campaigning beforehand, you have rather oddly been disinterested or purposefully ignorant of Barack Obama's history. You were, however, quite interested in George Bush's transcripts. That's pretty well said.
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, see, the double standard here is outrageous. And look at how the media pursued George W. Bush's Air National Guard records, during the Vietnam War. I mean, you had Dan Rather ruin his career over fake documents in the fervor to get all the information out about George W. Bush. When it comes to Barack Obama, there's a big criminal seal on anybody who wants to look into his past.
Now, also, we just spoke with a friend of yours, Jack Cashill.
Right.
Now the composite girlfriend story is starting to come apart. Have you what do you talk?
The fake composite girlfriend?
Yeah, and we've already gotten emails that the Barack Obama's a composite.
Right. Well, I mean, this is ridiculous. First of all, to issue this story, the White House had to admit that Dreams from My Father is fiction. It's made up. It's composites. The characters in it are hidden. They don't really exist. And then when you read the account that's out there of this girlfriend, this Constance, what's her name, Constance Good? I mean, the idea that this is like the literary, they're trying to make it the literary girlfriend of the year, of the century. I mean, I don't know, at 18 years old or however Barack Obama was, how many, Sunday New York Times they pined around while he was in his sarong, and they were writing each other about literature. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is nonsense. This is, fictionalized, made up. I guess they're paying heirs over time to write a fictional history of Barack Obama's life.
What's interesting, if you read, and I have read Dreams, and he goes back, and we just spoke with Jack, and Jack cites and can do so brilliantly that most of these so-called racial clashes were made up. That didn't happen. But this going to the theater story, clearly, and there's been so many people that have written since this story breaks, isn't this what happens to people who write books and fabricate, that they lose their jobs? And they cited that guy that went on Oprah and guys at newspapers that have lost jobs because they've made stuff up. Now, this is supposed to be an autobiography, and now in his new introduction, I don't know if you've seen the story since last night, but now the president has come out and said that in the reissuance of Dreams from My Father, the president writes an introduction, and it says that some of the characters, and you don't know which ones, are composites. Isn't that fascinating?
Well, it's a fiction. In other words, he wrote a make-believe idea of his life in order to advance his career. And how much of it is make-believe? Is it make-believe that Barack Obama Sr. is his father? Yeah. Is it make-believe, that he had all these different adventures? What was he doing in Indonesia? Maybe he was adopted in Indonesia. We don't have, now all the aspects of Barack Obama's life, I think, are suspect as fiction. Yeah. And besides that, I mean, they just threw his autobiography under the bus. Yeah. And what was the purpose? Yeah. In order to say he had girlfriends? I mean, I guess they're really afraid of the Larry Sinclair story that Barack Obama had homosexual affairs. And Larry Sinclair now, the defamation case against him was thrown out of court. Mm-hmm. You had Patton Boggs, one of the biggest law firms in Washington, going after Larry Sinclair on the stories of homosexual sex with Barack Obama. And Larry defended himself against Patton Boggs, one of the biggest, most powerful law firms in Washington, D.C., and Larry basically won. The case was thrown out of court. I wrote about it last week. And because I wrote about it last week, and those shows that Larry was essentially, the case gone, now the White House has got to concoct this girlfriend story. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the White House is already covering up for Barack Obama's bisexuality.
Well, the Dreams of My Father, it's clear with this new introduction that will come in the reissuance of the book that he's changing his tune, that these were composite characters, and he acknowledges the use of composite characters. Now, if that's true, what are the consequences of that?
Well, the consequences are that Barack Obama has just admitted that the life story we've been sold is a fiction. All the events of his life, all this, the great adventures off in Indonesia, mm-hmm. the mother abandoning him, was that really his father? Or is the father made up? Is that really his mother?
Well, there are pictures of him with Lolo Satiro. I mean, I think that, I don't doubt that Lolo's his stepfather. I don't doubt that Lolo is his stepsister's dad. I don't doubt any of that stuff. But I think it's fascinating. That's not the stuff you're looking for.
But Peter, look, there's a story out now. Now we've admitted that everything about Barack Obama's life and Dreams from My Father is fiction,
right?
All composite, made up. Okay, then let's take a look at the other thing. Here we got a film by Joel Gilbert, a DVD, Dreams from My Real Father, that says his real father is Frank Marshall Davis.
Sure, of course. I understand all that. I mean, but I think I think two things have happened, and we just passed the year anniversary of dropping of the PDF.
Right,
and
1 year.
Yeah, and now the girlfriend story, and now the money that's now on the table. Something, Jerry's going to happen.
Well, and also, Peter, it opens up all these things that are already happening. As I say, Larry Sinclair won his defamation case, alleging that,
I've seen those videos. No, I watched that video.
Right. And I've got additional information, which now I think I'll just make public in the next week or so, because now Barack Obama's opened the door. He's opened the door to say,
absolutely.
What's his sexual past? He's admitted that all the stuff in Dreams from My Father is a lie. And I don't know why the White House did it, why they threw his autobiography under the bus.
Well, because I don't think they had a choice at this point. I think what they do. Let me put you on hold real quick and come back after traffic.
Sure.
Jerry Corsi's with us.
I'm only standing here today, and Michelle is only where she is today, because scholarships and student loans gave us a shot at a great education. We didn't come from well-to-do backgrounds.
We know how Bill Clinton did at Georgetown undergrad and at Yale Law, and how George W. Bush did at Yale undergrad and at Harvard Business School. But Barack Obama's college and law school transcripts remain a major mystery. So now a conservative blogger, get this, offering $10,000 for Obama's college transcripts, which have never been seen to date. His name is Brooks Bain. He's looking to shed some light on the president's past academic record and says the president was never properly vetted the first time around.
Good stuff. Everyone hang on your hats. It's going to get good. 6:38, 22 before 7. K-How Radio, David Ellis, Cherry Creek. Then back to Dr. Corsi. We do apologize, but there are a couple of really great stories. That drop on the scholarship stuff was a speech made here when the president was campaigning up at CU, and of course none of the locals picked up on it. And the big story here was some woman had accidentally spilled yogurt on the president's pants, which I dubbed Yogurt Gate. But the fact he says that about the scholarships, all of that is suppressed. If they got scholarships at all, I'm not talking about Mrs. Obama. I'm talking about the president.
Well, also, I mean, here you got these people in Davenport, Iowa, worked for a firm that helped the federal government with student loans, and they've been looking up for student loans of famous people to amuse themselves. I mean, it wasn't the right thing to do. But when they looked up Barack Obama's student loans, the next day, here's the FBI in their offices with criminal charges. Yep. I mean, Barack Obama's records are not only sealed, they're sealed with a criminal seal. So that anybody who dares look at Obama's past, tries to investigate it, faces going to jail if they access the records without authorization. And there's no authorization. All Barack Obama would have to say is, I release all my records. I want to tell the truth. Instead, he hides behind these lies. You can't see his student loan data.
Now, this composite girlfriend story, and interviews have now been done quickly with her and this woman, Genevieve, and none of it happened. She has now come out and said, in light of what he wrote in his book, let me read it to you. I got so many different things here in front of me. She said no. She said I went to one play with them, and it wasn't a black play. In other words, it wasn't black people or an angry black playwright, etc., that Obama writes in his book, and that's why they quote broke up. Now, if that isn't true, and according to the woman, it isn't true, and he is rewriting the introduction to the book, what does that really mean? And like you said, I mean, it really puts blood in the water.
Puts blood in the water because Peter means is, first of all, his entire history is now fiction, and admitted to be fiction, because Dreams from My Father is the only real comprehensive biographical statement we have from Obama, and it looks like it's all made up, or in large part made up. And secondly, Barack Obama's not putting his sexual history on the table. And why all of a sudden do we have to have this girlfriend stuff? Is he worried that the bisexuality stuff that's been rumored around is now going to come out? I think this invites it to come out.
So,
and besides the fact, when you read this girlfriend story, you know, this is one of the most literary girlfriends in the history of 18-year-olds.
Yeah, no, they read the paper and
they read the paper. They exchange notes and about the authors they're reading, and they spend hours talking about literature. Well, I'm sure every 18-year-old is doing that. I mean, it's nonsense.
Well,
they're making Barack Obama into, again, Ayers is working overtime writing this fiction about Constance Good's love affair that never happened.
But, there's this moment, and, of course, like I said, whether or not it happened here in this moment where he talks about, the scholarships that he and his wife got, and now, okay, I throw the BS flag right at it, but even when a year ago, right about now, when the PDF came, it was a PDF, and I remember I forget the newswoman's name, who said she felt there was the seal on the birth. There was no seal.
Her name was Guthrie. Her last name was Guthrie.
Yeah, there was no seal. How could there be a seal? And how?
In fact, they only showed it to her, and they showed 2 minutes, and then they released this PDF, which Sheriff Arpaio has already indicated there's probable cause to believe is a forgery.
Oh, sure.
There's more evidence coming out on that, by the way. I'm down in Phoenix right now working with Sheriff Arpaio. I've been here all week. There'll be another press conference coming in the next few weeks. Certainly by June, there'll be another press conference. And look, everything about it, we've got a fake birth certificate. We got a fake autobiography from Obama, fake girlfriends, all this stuff made up, sitting around and reading literature and talking literature while he's wearing his sarong and smelling like raisins. I don't know who made this stuff up, but whoever did has quite an imagination, and they're not doing Barack Obama any service.
Jack Cashill says he's convinced that Ayers wrote it.
It sounds like Ayers. Yeah. It's got the right touch to Ayers, this kind of literary, advanced, intellectual touch to it. It just never happened that way. Even Constance Good is telling the newspapers now, you got to be kidding. That stuff never happened.
Yeah. Now, having said that, and my last question to you, and we'll talk again maybe tomorrow, certainly Monday, nobody's going to do it. None of the MSM are going to do anything about this.
It doesn't make any difference, Peter. It's out there.
That's my point.
In London, it was out there all over the world.
That's right.
It was on Drudge yesterday, the top headline. I assure you, watch WND. I've got a few. Now that this door is open, I've got a few bombshell revelations that are going to come forward. Barack Obama opened the door to his sexual past. So fine. I don't see any hesitation to publish stuff I've been sitting on for 5 or 6 years.
We'll talk on Monday or tomorrow, Jerry. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Dr. Jerry Corsi in Arizona.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.